Illustrator is so I'm going to give you just a couple of pointers when using shapes and how to control them a little bit better. So let's go ahead and check it out. First of all, in order to draw shapes, you need to use the shape tool. So if you long press on the rectangle tool, you'll see that there are some other tools here you could use. You could make an ellipse, a polygon, or a star. For this, I am just going to show you the rectangle tool. As I click and drag, you'll notice at one point a little line goes across diagonally. That means it's going to be a perfect square. That's just a little hint to be looking out for the guidelines that pop up every once in a while. You could also just press Shift while dragging and it'll keep those proportions as a perfect square. Once I have my shape drawn, I can release my mouse. And now let's talk about the properties of this shape. If you look over here on the left, you're going to see a solid box and then a box, if I click on it, comes to the front and it looks like it's missing the center. So whichever of these boxes that you click on that comes to the front is the one that you're going to be able to edit the color of. So if I want to edit the fill of this box, this is different than Photoshop because there's no paint bucket tool. What I'm doing is I'm going to be controlling the fill using this box. So I can double click on that and it brings up the color picker. So that's one way that I can do it. Just scrolling through the different colors and then of course the different values of that going from light to dark along the way and then clicking OK when I'm happy about it. The other thing that I could do is come up here and choose a color from this spectrum up here. Okay, so whatever is in front, if it's the fill or the stroke that's in front, you're going to be able to choose that color. And a couple of different ways to do that. The other thing that I want to point out is that you are able to play around with the line thickness. So if you click on properties, your side over here, all of your panels might look a little bit different than mine. I kind of customize mine as I go, and you can do that too. You can just dock them over there. These are the ones that I use all the time, and these are kind of my preferences. But properties is going to allow you to set some of the properties of whatever object is selected. So you can, again, you could change the fill color if you want. You could change the stroke color here. But if you click on stroke on that word, this box pops up. Now, you might want to have a thicker stroke. So you could type right here what size you want if you know, or you can just use the up arrow or the down arrow to make it wider or thinner. Okay, if you want your corners to be more rounded, you could click on that. You can see how that changes the corners. So I can have a sharp corner, a round join, or a beveled join. Okay, I can align that stroke to the inside or the outside of the path that it's sitting on. I could also make a dashed line by clicking on dashed line. Now I was playing around a little bit with some of these a little bit ago. So you can customize the dash size and the gap between those dashes simply by typing in numbers. So by default, it's going to be in this case, 12 point, but maybe I only want to have a 4-point dash in between, and then I want to have a 16-point dash, and then I want to have a 33-point dash, something like that. So you can make it as custom as you want, playing around with those. The other thing that you can do is uncheck dash mark and set the stroke profile. Uniform is just going to be uniform thickness all the way around. And then there are a couple of different width profiles. So it's going to go from narrow to wide to narrow. And you can see how that affects that look right there. There's another one that allows it to go narrow to wide to narrow to wide for longer and narrow. And you can also flip it so that it changes accordingly. So that's one way to play around with shapes. Now you'll notice that there are two arrow tools up here. These are your selection and direct selection. Selection tool allows you, once you have that selected, to select a shape. You can move that shape. You can scale that shape up and down and kind of change how it looks. You could hover just outside and rotate that shape. And those are all possible with the selection tool. Now, direct selection tools allows you to directly select different components of that object. So, for instance, if I click in the middle, I can move the whole shape around. That's fine, just like the selection tool. But say I want to stretch this corner out, I can just click on this little point. It's an anchor point, and we're going to talk about that for sure. But for now, just know that you can manipulate these points and create kind of any shape that you want. And then, of course, if you want to rotate it, you have to go back to the selection tool and rotate. Another cool thing about the direct selection tool is you can directly select one anchor point, and there's a little circle that pops up in some of those anchor points sometimes. And right now what we have is a corner anchor point, but what we can do is make those curved or smooth anchor points by clicking and dragging and then rounding off that corner. Okay, so I could do that for each one and do a different corner. Or if I select by clicking on the shape, and then you'll notice that these circles appeared on the inside of each one of those corners. I can just click and drag and manipulate that shape corner as well. So this is just a really brief overview of using the shape tool, using the selection tool, using the direct selection tool, showing you how to change the fill and the stroke colors, as well as some of the stroke properties.